Hello! This is We Are the Watchers of Movies, and this is Samantha doing my very first intro.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are doing kind of a little twist on what we usually do. We're going to be talking about the TNT TV show called... Miniseries called I Am the Night. So we're going to be doing the first 3 episodes in this installment, and then we'll be doing another one of the last 3 episodes after this. And there is a podcast we recorded as well, which is the sort of the backstory of the show, because the show is about real people, takes place in the 60s, and it is about Fauna Hodel. If that name is unfamiliar, then you didn't listen to our first episode.
Which you should.
So, if anyone is familiar with...
I did a lot of work on it.
Lauren did a lot of work. So if anyone's familiar with the Black Dahlia murder, which was a very famous murder in the 1940s in Los Angeles, George Hodel is suspected to kill her, but they never actually found the woman's killer. And this story, I Am the Night, is about Fauna Hodel, who finds out when she's a teenager that she was adopted, and she is a member of the Hodel family, and so she goes to Los Angeles to seek out just where she's from, who she's related to, just find out her life story, basically. And it also is about a journalist named Jay Singletary.
Yeah.
Some weird name. No offense if he's listening.
Who he's not a real person.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. I know.
He covered the Black Dahlia murders when they first happened, and he did some articles about George Hodel, and obviously George Hodel was a very powerful man, and so he ruined Jay's life, basically, or in a roundabout way. I don't know exactly how. They haven't gone over that in the show yet.
He did he did a couple of articles on Tamar Hodel's, oh my god, why can't I think? Her trial.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was on her side, and that's how it ruined his career.
Okay, so yeah.
Because George Hodel was acquitted of it. So,
okay. Yeah, so it follows him as well, and he's sort of like a washed-up journalist now because he lost everything back at the time that he was trying to find out the truth about Tamar.
Which is like 15 years prior to what is happening right now.
Yeah. So
in the current series, so
the show is basically the two of them eventually teaming up to figure out the real story and what really happened. So we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting but very dark things. Also, it's the night before...
Very dark.
It's the night before July 4th. So if you hear explosions in the background, we're not recording from, like, the war zone.
Yeah.
I was going to say Kuwait, like in Clueless, when her dad called. He's like, "Where are you, Kuwait?"
No, Daddy. I'm in...
Is that in Los Angeles?
Beverly
Sun Valley.
Yes.
Anyway, so if you hear some explosions in the background, that's just people lighting off firecrackers, because tomorrow is the big day.
The big day.
Yeah.
It is the day of independence. Some people may even call it Independence Day. Yeah.
If you guys ever saw it, there's a movie in the 90s starring Will Smith. That was a big deal.
It was called Independence Day. Anyway, so you want me to do some corrections corner?
Yeah, Lauren's going to take it away now.
All right, so if you listened to the previous episode, which I worked very hard on, so you should listen to it because it's very interesting, and it's only like 18 minutes long. Like, you're already listening to podcasts. What are you doing? Go back, listen to that episode. It'll be great. You'll understand what we're talking about. Also, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so there will be spoilers. Anyway, but it's history, so, if you can't find it online, I don't know what to tell you. It's on Wikipedia. That's where I get all my information from. Sounds legit. Anyway, corrections corner. So I'd said previously that Tamar had lived with her father when she was 9, but she actually lived with him during the summer and didn't officially move in until she was 14.
Oh, so okay. Well,
that
that's
was
a little...
just stuff. Yeah. So I wanted to repeat again what I was texting you about last night about the Arrested Development thing.
Oh, yeah.
So there's an episode of Arrested Development that Heather Graham is in, and she is the teacher of George Michael, who's played by Michael Cera, and she loves Saddam Hussein. She's like a history teacher, she's a ethics teacher, and she starts dating George Michael's father, who's Michael, played by Jason Bateman. And Michael finds out that George Michael has a crush on her because he finds a collage of Saddam Hussein in his bedroom that he's going to give her.
What a nice kid.
So he goes and he brings it to her, and I swear this is relevant to the story. So Michael brings it to her. He's like, hey, I think my son might have a thing for you. You know, he made this collage of Saddam Hussein for you. And she's like, oh, Saddam, I love him. And he kind of pauses and he gives her this look like, what is wrong with you? And she goes, terrible man, though. He did horrible, horrible things. So I was watching the 3rd episode of I Am the Night last night, and George Hodel comes on the screen, and I go, oh, I love him. I mean, he's horrible. He did horrible things. Terrible man. And I was just like, oh my God, when did I become that person?
Oh, gosh.
But did you want to talk about, oh shit, that's right. That's in the 3rd episode. We should probably talk about the first two.
Yeah, we need to, let's go in order a little bit.
Okay. So Fauna's mom is fun, Jimmy Lee.
Yeah, I thought her character was interesting because the show opens up and it's morning, and her mom seems like really normal and nice. And then when she gets home from work, her mom's like drunk and ranting.
Well, they said that in the Root of Evil podcast, which is where I'm getting a lot of this information from. It's an awesome podcast. If you like this George Hodel story, please listen to the Root of Evil, because they did a very good job about giving justice to the Hodel family. But so what they were saying about her mom, Jimmy Lee, is that she was like a horribly mean drunk, but she was also mean like when she wasn't drunk. So I think that scene was kind of just like a little. I mean, it was you know, I don't know, one of those rare moments where she was kind, I guess.
Yeah.
You know? Because she seems nice at first, you're right, but then she's, like, calling her stupid, like, a lot, and I was like, what are you doing? Don't call your child stupid. Like, that's a horrible way for them to grow up. So, yeah, that was messed up. But
I thought that I think it's interesting that Jimmy Lee's whole life fell apart because she adopted this white baby. Well, she thought that Fauna had a black father because she thought Fauna had a white mother and a black father. And so she made a comment about, imagine adopting a mixed baby and expecting her skin to turn dark, and it never does. And then she talks about how she was in the grocery store with like a blonde, blue-eyed baby, and somebody threatened to call the police, so she had to say, oh, I'm her nanny. You know, and then she made mention of this, and I was going to ask you about it because they don't talk about it very much, but so she was married, she had a husband, and then why did he leave, or what happened? Did he die or something? Because it seemed like in her little monologue, she was like, yeah, he wanted me to adopt the baby, he wanted me to do it because he thought it would calm me down because they couldn't have kids of their own, but then he's gone, and she seems to think that it's Fauna's fault. Not that he, like, died or something, but rather that he left, and I was curious.
I think he might have left because she was so horrible.
Oh.
Jimmy Lee was just abusive.
Maybe.
Which is like, cool, leave the kid there who's defenseless.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened to him because it's never explained, so.
No, and it probably won't ever be explained.
Yeah.
But one of the things, too, that one of Fauna's daughters said, Yvette, she said that Fauna was saved by the ghetto after they found out how horrible the Hodel family was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she went back home.
Well, because so I have some more information. So when Fauna calls George, he's actually not in the United States at that point. He's living in Japan in real life.
Okay.
And she writes him, and he calls her. And he tells her how much she sounds like Tamar on the phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they do sound a lot alike, too. Like,
have you heard
alike.
Recordings of both of them?
Yeah, I've heard them, like, talking back to each other, and they sound like the same person.
I see.
Yeah. But when I read that, you know, it was like, oh, you sound just like Tamar. I was like, oh, ew. I was like, ew, ew, ew.
Well, that was something interesting. Like, she called him, she snuck into the records room at the hospital, which was a very tense scene, I
Yeah.
thought. And she got a paper that had his name and number on it, and she called him and said, "Hi, it's Fauna."
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't surprised or anything.
No,
he just
wasn't.
was like a crazy person, like cool and collected the whole time. And he was
So-
like, it was almost as if he had told her to call him, like, call me at 3:00,
Right.
and she was.
Right.
It was so weird.
Well, and
really
you,
good.
and I remember we were talking about that, and you were like, so smooth, and I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, well, yeah, and then when he was like, hello, Fauna, I got like chills, like up and down. But did you notice that he was saying her name a lot?
Yeah,
And that's
a lot.
yeah, and that's a good way to like emotionally connect with someone.
Oh.
Which may be why women were so crazy about this guy, because he knew how to like connect with someone.
Huh.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't know. I really like the guy that plays him though, Jefferson Mays.
He's good. He's really good.
Yeah,
His
he's
way of
awesome.
talking. He has like a mid-Atlantic sort of accent,
Yeah.
and I really like it.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's just like smooth, like I don't know.
Mhm.
I like his voice. I like him. So the house that they filmed in, that George Hodel,
Yeah, that's a
that's
creepy looking
his
house.
original house.
They showed a picture, like a black and white picture of it at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And that's a weird looking house.
Yeah. Well, so I have some more information about it.
Oh, yes. Tell me.
So it was originally designed by Lloyd Wright, who's Frank Lloyd Wright's son.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and it was designed for this guy named John Sowden. It was built in 1926. So it was like the height of the Art Deco
I was
phase.
going to say, it
Yeah.
does have, it looks like it's
It
from
is
that
Art
time
Deco,
period,
yeah. But it's better because I don't like Art Deco and I like that place.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll tell Lloyd
I mean,
Wright.
that's yeah. You should tell
Yeah.
Lloyd Wright in 26, which means he's probably definitely still alive almost 100 years later.
Probably, definitely
Yeah.
still alive.
Mm-hmm. And it was built to be a place to party.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So John Sowden and his wife Ruth were Hollywood scenesters,
Ooh.
and they hired Lloyd Wright because he had experience with Hollywood movie sets.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I thought that was really cool. They got to film the original house.
Yeah.
Like,
So who
that's
lives there now, I
awesome.
wonder? Is it still in the Hodel family?
I don't think so. I
How'd
think
they
it's
get the
with someone
rights?
else.
Interesting.
They probably asked the people that live there because I remember
Well, most likely, I guess.
they just broke in. They
Yeah.
were like, "We're gonna film the whole thing here." No, you can't come home. We're filming right now.
We're busy.
Get Chris Pine on set.
Get him. Where is he? Captain Kirk.
I guess that there's something that I was reading with the original or the new owners, and they were like, how do you get rid of like the bad like juju from George Hodel and everything? And they were like, well, we do some like sage rituals and stuff like that. And I was
Say a
like,
lot of prayers.
you know, I mean,
Don't buy the house to begin with.
I don't know. And then when I was watching that documentary, there's like a whole secret like hidden room that George Hodel had. Like,
Really?
yeah, the kids weren't allowed in too.
Oh.
Yeah. And someone said something like, oh yeah, it was probably used for storage. And I was like, okay, no it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, no, and God, no way did George Hodel, like this depraved motherfucker, have this secret room that he used for storage.
I like the idea of him just having like big Rubbermaid containers just full of like old baby clothes and
Yeah.
art from high school or something. It's
No.
like, well, it's just my normal. Everybody has one.
You know, it's probably more like Christian Grey's little pleasure room than a storage room, you know?
Yeah.
So, fun.
Yeah, it's a weird looking house.
It's cool, though.
I guess it's cool.
Yeah.
I guess in the concept, like in terms of the movie and the concept, I just like I associate the look of the house with something dark, and I don't really like it
Yeah, I can
because
understand that.
it's even like a dark looking house, which the show does a really good job making it look that way. It looks really foreboding,
Mm-hmm.
which I like.
I do too.
And I like that there's like when she knocks on the door when she goes to the house, she's knocking, but she's knocking on like a gate, so it's not even the main entrance. You know, it's interesting.
It's like I'd love to see it in person. You know?
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool, but I mean that's probably not possible. You know, I'd also love to see H.H. Holmes' Murder Mansion, but that burned down. So
Oh,
whatever.
I'm sorry.
I know. I'm very sad about it.
Well,
I mean, I'll get over it or whatever. I guess. At some point.
I really like Chris Pine's character. I think his performance is a highlight for me.
He's stuck in the morgue, though.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk about that scene? Because I have things that I want to say about it.
That was so funny, yeah.
So, Chris Pine is basically at a point in his life when he's just, like, taking, like, gossip pictures and pictures of, like, women having affairs and things like that, and stories that go on, like the rag type of stories.
Loud outside.
Yeah, there's a war going on out there. So he sneaks into a morgue so he can take pictures of a dead body, obviously, and
which startled the shit out of me when they first showed it.
He pulled the blanket away and the body is like mutilated, and I was like, oh, but they showed it for like half a second.
I know, but like
by the time I realized what it was already off screen.
Right, and they didn't show it like.
They didn't show it again.
And I think it would have been fine. I would have been finer if it had been like a whole body, but because like her arm was like on her head, and, like, cut off, I was like, oh my god.
I think I don't think I would have been. Yeah, I think I would have been fine if it was just a dead body. But the fact that it was, like, mutilated and I had no idea what I was looking for when he pulled the sheet back, those two things, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, so he's in the morgue, and this scene has potential to be so cliche, and I was cringing at first when the scene started, because he hears people coming, and he's looking around, and the only place for him to go is in the little, like, the area... The drawer where they put the bodies in, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is one of those shows, and I was... annoyed. It was I was on the cusp of being like, this show does not take itself seriously.
Survive a plane crash level of
yeah, because I was like, of course he's gonna get in the stupid drawer. So he gets in the drawer and he goes in and he leaves the door open a crack, obviously. And whoever comes in the room, it's a group of men, and they come in the room and one of them sees the door open and they close the door, so he's stuck in there, and I'm still going, oh my gosh. This is so cliche. I hate this. But then something miraculous happens, and Chris Pine gives the performance of his career for me.
It's hilarious.
So he's laying in the drawer, and he looks to the left, and he looks to the right, and there's dead bodies on both sides of him, and he starts flipping out, as one would.
Right.
He's losing his mind because he's locked in a drawer, surrounded by dead bodies.
Right.
And he's going crazy.
And there's no way to get out.
And then he's in the height of his craziness, he starts laughing almost hysterically, and he says the line, "This is what it's come to." And I loved it. Like, immediately, it totally turned for me. It was amazing. It was such a good performance. It was so true. He's calling out the fact that it's ridiculous, and he's in a morgue surrounded by dead bodies, and then the people in the room obviously hear him.
Because he's laughing even harder.
He's laughing really hard.
He's laughing really
They pull him out, and he says, "I'm feeling much better." Like a body come back to life. And it's like some police detectives and doctors, and then it fades to black, and then when it comes back, you see him on the street, and he's getting beat up, and he has, like, on his face, like, the essence of a smile, and I can only imagine that
like a shit-eating grin.
Like, well, and I think, like, getting beat up by somebody is probably so much better than being in a morgue drawer that it doesn't even bother him to get beat up. And it's just such a phenomenal performance. I love it. From
super funny.
Yeah.
I just love how he was just like, this is it. This is what my entire career has led up to. Is that's the moment where I'm stuck in a drawer.
I love it.
It was perfect. Mm-hmm. It was great. I wish I know that you had said that the show started out really slow.
I think the show
I don't really have a lot to talk about in the first episode or really the second one.
Well, I think that the show has mega pacing problems. I would never get on like this like culty bandwagon like I did for Breaking Bad or something where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's brilliant, because I think that there's a lot of downtime where I started thinking, okay, let's get back to the, let's. Because I think that the mystery is very, like, fascinating, like, darkly fascinating.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying peeling off the layers, but there's so much space in between
Yeah.
And Fauna kind of gets on my nerves because I feel like she does a lot of things in slow motion. I don't know if you feel that way.
I don't know. I don't, like, I don't know if I will feel more strongly about her as the series goes on. I guess I feel kind of attached to her just because I know about the real person and I know her story. But if I was going into this, like, blind, I would likely not be very attached to Fauna. No. I would probably be like, I don't really care about her.
Because I feel like she seems like she has this savviness where she can go through the world around her really successfully, but she also seems like she has this weird wonderment about her that gets on my nerves, where she's just like staring quietly for minutes at a time and just staring. And then, I don't know, she doesn't really say a lot when she talks, which bothers me because I think, like, she doesn't ask the right questions, she doesn't say the right phrases, so the plot just plods along when she's in charge of moving the plot along. I don't think that her character does a very good job of it, because she's, like, sometimes I think, like, Fauna, just say this one sentence, and,
right,
you know, things will change, or you'll get what you want, but instead she just, like,
well, and how does she not talk about her family more, like, her real family?
Yeah.
You know, because if it were me, and I found out this completely life-changing event that, like, well, first of all, she finds out in the, second or third episode that she's not biracial.
In the second episode,
yeah. And that was, in real life, that was, like, hugely devastating to her, because it was something she had identified with for so long.
Yeah, well.
That, when she found out that she wasn't biracial, she's like, oh, then I'm not even who I thought I was, you know. And she actually wrote a book called One Day She'll Darken.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and that, I think, was a lot about her struggle with identity and her race and everything like that, and finding out that she's not the race she thought she was or raised as, and, you know,
I thought they did a really good job, when they showed her at school, and I like that she's sort of like a creature of two worlds, like, she's sort of stuck in the middle, almost, because she doesn't fit in with the black students,
mm-hmm.
and the white students don't accept her, and she doesn't have any place to go. Like, they even have a scene where her and her boyfriend, who is an African American, are sort of, like, making eyes at each other across the parking lot, and one of the black girls sees her.
She flips out
and she was really angry, like
she was, like, scary angry. Yeah, I was like, calm down, dude.
And like, a white girl tried to sit with her at lunch, and the other white girls were like, no, you can't sit with her because she's, you know, she's not white. So she doesn't really know where she belongs.
Yeah.
But she's grown up in the black community. Like, her mother, who she thought was her mother, was black. And
right.
So I really think that's an interesting struggle. And when she goes to Los Angeles, or maybe I think actually when she's at home, they're stopped by the cops.
Yeah.
And a cop offers to give her a ride home because he says, this isn't a good neighborhood for you. And she says she's mixed.
There's one point where that Sepp guy attacks her, like, outside the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she gets away from him, and she falls back, but he, like, stops because there's a cop car that comes around the corner. Like, he was basically not going to stop until that cop car. And then, when he was like, the cop was like, do you want to ride home? She was like, oh, this is my neighborhood. And he goes, you and all the other roaches, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, I was like, well, super derogatory. Like, what? Or so prejudiced. Like, it was just so, like, and the way that he said it, too, like, his voice was so full of disgust. And I was just like, fuck you, man. Like, So I actually did write down that Fauna's mom started telling her about her real family when she was 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she didn't this isn't like a sudden revelation. She found out when she was younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I thought it was interesting that she took on the name Fauna immediately.
Yeah, she did. That was weird.
Like, her name was Pat.
Yeah.
Patty.
Which actually is slang for a white girl.
Oh,
and that's
really?
why Jimmy Lee named her that.
Oh, that's mean. And she
Jimmy Lee was kind of mean.
her adopted mom said something to her while she was drunk that made her wonder, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean where do I come from? Or so when her mom was passed out, she found a box full of papers and she found her birth certificate that said Fauna Hodel.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning she confronted her mom about it, and then her mom told her the story about how she was like asked to adopt this white baby because it was a woman said, like, my daughter's having a baby, it's mixed. And anyway, so the mom says, keep that name, keep Fauna Hodel, because your grandpa's really rich and famous and you'll have money.
Yeah.
So then she just starts using the name Fauna, like...
Which is weird because she grew up with Patty her whole life. Like, that would be my name.
Did she go by... Is that accurate? Like, did she start going by Fauna when she was in her teens? Or do you know?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, she's 15 in this, right?
Okay.
She doesn't actually meet Tamar until she's in her 20s or 30s. Because she already has her baby, Yvette, by then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then, and I don't know how old Yvette was, but, so I thought that was interesting, because I told you that she, because George Hodel was in Japan, he fled the United States when things started getting hot in his trail.
Yeah.
When people were like, maybe you murdered someone, he was like, well, see ya. He was off, that one guy. Oh my God, I was just gonna name that one Nazi dude that ended up in Brazil. The Angel of Death, Joseph Mengele. That's it. Yes, he was off. So my joke is he was off like Joseph Mengele. That's what I was gonna say,
good.
but I ruined it. It was horrible. That was horrible. You're like, no, congratulations. I'm like, no, do not. Do not.
Kindly stop.
Kindly stop. You're terrible. But yeah. So that's all I have notes right now about that. As we'll get into more, I will tell you more notes that I have. Isn't that exciting?
Those are all the notes you took at all?
Oh.
Those are all the notes?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, you told me that you had a ton of things to say.
So many notes. It's crazy. It'll make you kind of sick. No.
So Fauna goes to Los Angeles.
Yeah, Fauna goes to LA.
And she stays with her grandma. Her adopted mom's mom, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Big Mama.
What was it, her aunt? I think it was her aunt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it was her aunt. So, because she was with her cousins. She was hanging out with her cousins and then going to parties and everything.
Yeah.
With that kid, that creeper
Nero?
kid, Nero. And also his name is Nero.
That's
Who named
weird.
your kid that? Wasn't he, a super brutal emperor in Rome? He, killed all these people and everything? Wasn't he the son of Caligula?
I mean, maybe it was just a street nickname, because he's kind of savvy, street savvy.
Yeah, but,
Oh, and we didn't mention, so Fauna...
He just rubbed me the wrong way immediately.
Fauna is she's being followed by this guy in a black car, even in Nevada, where she lives with her mom.
Right.
When I say her mom, I don't mean Tamar, I mean the mom who adopted her.
Jimmy Lee, right.
Jimmy Lee. So she lives there, and she notices this white guy, this older white guy is, sort of stalking her almost, and she sees him following her, and he is weirdly not subtle about it.
No, he's not at all.
He knows she sees him, and he stays in plain sight, and he just follows her.
He just stares at her, yeah.
And it's weird, and then...
Well, maybe he's not trying to.
It doesn't seem like it.
I mean,
and
he
then
keeps trying to, assault her almost, you know?
So I don't understand, because there's a scene with him and George is saying you're supposed to keep her safe, but it doesn't seem like it. It seemed like he had plans to, turn her into a cello, because he had that statue that he put cello strings on, and he had a mask.
I have a theory about that.
Yeah.
So, and this is getting a little into the third episode. Actually, you know what? I think I'll save it. I think it'll be better once I save it. Let's talk more about what's going on in LA, because there's more to that part that I want to go into about the whole beginning of this third episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I want to pause on that for a second. So she meets Corina Hodel, who was George
Yes.
Hodell's ex, and was actually not a real person,
Oh.
but was based after Dolores Hodell, who's Tamar's stepmom. So Steve Hodell's mom.
Okay.
When Tamar got pregnant, she told her mom Dorothy, and her mom told her to not ask her for help after what she did to her father.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
after the trial and everything.
Yeah.
What a fucking bitch. Yeah, so healthy family values there, you know?
That's so messed up.
The whole family is disgusting. I love them. I mean, terrible people. Horrible people. I mean, not all of them are horrible, but some of them are horrible. Yeah, there's a couple of them that are pretty bad. So, but, man, Karina she was a piece of cake, wasn't she?
I really liked, so Fauna got to LA and she's trying to call George because George said, come visit me, but she can't get a hold of him.
Yeah.
Like, she keeps getting, like, somebody answers his phone who's maybe a housekeeper and saying, yeah, I'll tell him you called. And so she's at this bus stop, and then she finds the phone number. What's her name? Karina Hodell's phone number, and she calls her, and Karina was like, stay away from your grandfather. He's a bad, bad man. And then, like, 2 days later, Fauna calls her again, and she's like, when did you call? Like, she was, like, taking drugs or something.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't remember
I definitely
and
think
so
they
it was
were.
really interesting. Like, I like the rawness of her being like, no, stay away. But then when she's in her right mind, she was like, oh, hello, Fauna, you know?
She was such a bitch,
She was crazy,
too.
yeah.
Like, when they're eating and everything, she's like,
Yeah.
she's like, sit up straight. It's, you know, it's like, you can be nice about the way you're, you know, barking orders at her. You don't have to be rude about it. Like, she's like, you're such a slob. Why are you eating, you know, dinner with the queen? And I was like, Karina, calm down.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that big of a deal.
I thought it was funny when she first went to Karina's house. Karina was like, do you want some lemonade? And she goes and gets lemonade, and Fauna's kind of like walking around looking at the pictures, and she comes back and she goes, don't snoop.
Karina's something else. She's got to be on something.
She has to
probably
be.
cocaine
Big
or
time.
something, or heroin. I
And
think was a big.
So she tells her Tamara was a liar.
Was a big thing in the 40s.
Yeah, maybe. And she's like, Tamara was a liar. And she tells her Tamara was deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Even though when Fauna talked to George was like, don't try to contact Tamara because she's ill. So.
Yeah. And that's not what happens either, by the way. So when George calls her in real life, when he called her from Japan, he was like, do you want to meet Tamar? And then he goes, oh, you sound a lot like Tamar on the phone. And he was probably like, I'm going to have sex with you.
I wondered what like, he was weird towards her in the show. Like,
well, I think that was, I mean, I think his intention.
Like he could be her father.
Well, yeah, but I mean, obviously
happened.
that hasn't stopped him before. I think
Yeah.
his intention is to dominate her.
Yeah, it kind of seems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we forgot about the part when she's at the bus stop when she's on the way to Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and she sits down because they're on like just a stop, like a rest stop, and a man sits next to her, and he just strikes up this.
So you
brief.
didn't know that was him, like, right away? Because
I
knew
didn't
him, that was
know
immediately.
That was him. I wondered if it was him. But I didn't know it was him.
Okay, because I knew it was him right away.
And then they showed him at the end of the episode without the sunglasses on, and I was like, is that the same guy? So he talked to her at the bus stop, and just very briefly, and then later when Karina takes her to the restaurant, and she's like, I'm going to show you your grandfather's private art collection, he's there.
Yeah.
With the henchman who's been following her around, and she sees him and runs.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
well, because he's like, what's your favorite painting? Or
did you want to talk about the art? Because I saw was it a Dali painting with the body all cut out?
It looked like a Dali painting.
Is
the
that
bisected body?
Yeah, was Elizabeth Short cut up in that way?
No, she was cut up in the middle, and there were parts of her flesh missing.
Oh, okay.
But she was only cut, I think, one.
Oh, okay.
And her she had a Glasgow smile, which is really nasty. I caught some pictures of her today when she was dead, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, listen to the audience out there. I made the mistake a long time ago of reading the Wikipedia page and looking up the information of the Black Dahlia murder, and once you see those images, you cannot unsee them. So do not look them up unless you're sure. And what I'm saying is probably like enticing people and making you want to look them up, but believe me, do not read the details of the case. Do not look up the photos unless you want to be haunted, because I was haunted.
That's Samantha telling you this, and this is what I'm going to tell you. Because I think if you want to look up the photos, do it, but you better take a lot of caution when you do, because it is disturbing. So
yeah, you can do whatever you want, but I don't think you should look them up lightly. Like, you don't do what I did, where so I went to see the movie The Black Dahlia, and the movie was
horrible.
So terrible I actually left the theater, but I was intrigued about the murder enough where I read that's why I read the page and the details and saw the pictures, and I would not recommend it.
I know.
It's
or the movie.
Really bad. Well, the movie's terrible, but
if you're gonna watch the movie, just watch Mia Kirshner's parts, because she plays Elizabeth Short, who's Black Dahlia, and I thought she did an awesome job. But everyone else was terrible, and that's unfortunate too, because it's Josh Hartnett and Aaron Eckhart. I'm not that crazy about Scarlett Johansson, to be honest. I like a couple of her movies here and there.
I like her all right.
I like her as Black Widow. I liked Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Yeah, me too.
A lot, and I liked Lost in Translation. That's my favorite of hers.
Yeah.
I love Lost
really
in
good.
Translation.
I agree. It's a great movie.
Such a cute movie. I love that movie so much. It's like one of those where every time I think about it, I'm like, heart eyes, star eyes. I'm like, I love that movie.
I like that movie because I like that two people can sort of find each other when they need to find each other. You know,
and it's not romantic either.
No, it's just
well, there was almost like an underlying sense to that it maybe could have been, but I like that it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like people can save you.
Yeah,
I think the right person at the right time can save you from yourself. Even, you know, I don't know. I just think it's a really nice story because it didn't have to be romantic. You know, it was just. They connected, and they connected really beautifully, and they helped each other. They both helped each other, and there's this scene where she's in his hotel room, and she said, "Let's never come to Japan again because it will never be as much fun."
I love that.
And he says, "Whatever you say, you're the boss." And I just love that moment between them. I don't know. And then they're laying on a bed together.
Yeah.
And he just like reaches out and holds her ankle, and it's just such a beautiful shot. It's just a really good movie.
Moral of the story is, if you're gonna watch a Scarlett Johansson movie, don't watch Black Dahlia. Instead, watch Lost in Translation.
Or any of the Marvel movies.
Or Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
She's really, I like her as Black Widow.
Yeah, and she's good as Black Widow. She's not terrible. I don't know. I've just seen her in enough things where I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
She just...
It's alright.
Whatever. It's alright.
So anyway, so they're in the art gallery.
Yes. Oh, so that painting of the bisected woman, it looks like a Dali painting to me. I like Dali a lot, but I wouldn't say I'm super familiar with his stuff. So I can tell you, like, by sight, it looks like him, but it might not be him.
Okay. I was just wondering, because you said there was some connection with the paintings.
Some paintings with, I think it was, God, I wrote this down somewhere, of course, and now I'm not sure where I wrote this down. But, one of them was called Minotaur, and it was by Man Ray, and it's of a woman who has her arms above her head.
Okay.
And that's actually a perfect segue into the third episode if you want to talk about it.
Yeah,
okay?
Sure.
So, and the other one is Lover's Lips, and that one is just like, which they maybe think that that's how he was inspired to give her the Glasgow smile.
Okay.
But the Minotaur was because she had her arms posed over her head.
Oh, okay.
When she was found. So,
I see.
Yeah. So we were talking about the third episode, and so that mask that he's wearing is a Minotaur mask.
That was weird.
Yeah.
That made me feel dirty, and I didn't watch...
It was a little creepy.
The opening scene of episode 3, I actually looked away for some of it because it was too
I rewatched
weird.
it again.
And the weird thing he was wearing, that weird Minotaur thing, it looks like a uterus. Is that what it's supposed to look like, a uterus? Because
no.
It was like
I didn't even
red.
notice that.
It was red like I would assume an organ is, and it had like the Minotaur like horns or whatever looked kind of ovary-ish. And I thought, is he wearing a uterus? Is this real? I don't like it. And I looked away because I couldn't. I thought, I don't need these images in my brain. I can.
It just cracks me up how different you and I are, because I was like, I'm going to rewatch this scene.
No, I didn't.
Like, I've watched it like 3 times, I think. Yeah.
I think it was
too
weird. It made me feel icky, and then, actually, that whole episode made me feel a little bit icky.
It was a little bit of an icky episode, I agree.
I needed a palate cleanse, like I had to watch something happy afterwards. I started, this is a brief segue, but I started watching The Devil Wears Prada, just for something lighthearted, and I don't even really like that movie.
I've never seen it, because I just feel like I wasn't going to like it, you know?
I think the scenes in the magazine office are really good, because everyone's snooty and very well dressed, and I like that, but I don't feel bad for Anne Hathaway. And I don't care about Anne Hathaway's story. It was a dumb movie. I don't even really like it, but I had to watch something. I had to get my head off of the uterus that he was wearing.
No, it was, I'm pretty positive it was a Minotaur mask.
Okay.
So.
But didn't, like, the opening he was looking through was, like, vagina-shaped, and that made me feel really uncomfortable. The whole thing was really sexual.
I can see what you mean. Oh no, it's definitely supposed to be.
Oh,
yeah,
I know it's supposed to be, but
yeah.
he was looking. He was like peering out from a vagina.
Well, so we talked about how those 3 girls that come in and they're like entertaining the men, which is clearly supposed to be like
a sex party.
I'm assuming they're escorts or something.
Yeah, it's definitely a sex party.
And he like put the bag over that one girl's head and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that they talked about in the Root of Evil podcast was that he was really into surrealism, and surrealism is all about the subjugation of women. So yeah, it's like. Very like
subjugation.
Yeah, like dominating them, like making them submissive. You know, which is you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I just like I've heard of like subjugative verb, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I actually had to look it up the definition because I wasn't sure if I was going to use it right.
No, that's okay. I've just never heard it used that way, so that's why I was.
Yeah, the subjugation of women. So it's very depraved and stuff like that, and that's why that scene where he puts the bag over her head, I wasn't totally sure if that was necessarily going to be a consensual thing.
It didn't seem
it didn't seem like it. But you do see them, what I assume is them later having sex, and it seems like, I mean, you don't really see much, so I don't know. But, so it's, I thought it's very, like, I know that scene's not supposed to make you feel good, though.
Oh, no,
yeah,
definitely not.
Like, it's supposed to make you feel, like, really uneasy and on edge. Like, oh, this is the kind of guy that George Hodel is. And it gets even worse. I mean,
yeah,
because he's such.
His daughter's, like, watching. And she's, like, 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know.
Oh, okay, so I want to talk about that. So when he's like, whispering her name like Tamar, and then they're like holding their hands over their faces, which would have been cute in a different scenario, like a little like a father-daughter thing, except for what he does to her. But then when you see him and the woman is standing in front of him and he looks like he's taking off her bra. So when I watched that scene, and I watched it I think 2 or 3 times, each time I was like, shit, is that Tamar? I think it's supposed to make you think for like a split second that maybe he's taking off her clothes.
Oh.
And then, because it's like the way it's done, like, and I thought this both times, even though I'd already seen it. And then you see him, like, she's like watching him take off this woman's bra.
Mm-hmm. And
then he like looks up at her and he's like looking at her while he's doing that, which was super creepy.
Really weird.
And I loved it.
I did not love it.
I love this.
I didn't love it.
I love this kind of shit. It's so creepy and it's so gross. And
as soon as the show started.
Maybe I'm creepy. Am I creepy?
No.
Are you sure?
The episode started.
You're saying it in a way that's making me not believe you.
No, you're not creepy. The episode started and it like the music was really dark. And it said 1945, and I didn't know exactly when the murder happened, the Black Dahlia murder.
47.
Yeah, so I thought, oh crap, this is gonna be bad. And then it like flashed and it was like red, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's like some weird satanic ritual. I don't like this. I hate it. And then his daughter was peeking, and then he was wearing the uterus, and I couldn't watch, so I turned away because I was like, whatever's gonna happen, I'm just not interested because it was too weird. And then obviously that was like the cold open, and then the theme song went, and then the story moved on. But I just didn't. I didn't like it.
It was very
creepy.
It was very unsettling. Yeah. I mean, especially like. So, for someone who's going into the show not knowing that George Hodel had actually impregnated his daughter, I wonder what that's like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because from my eyes, well, obviously it's very creepy and unsettling, but I'm wondering what someone would think who had no idea. You know what I mean? Like, they'd probably be unsettled, but what else would they be thinking? You know, and I'm kind of curious about that.
I don't know what I would be thinking, because all I was thinking was, I know that he's potentially Fauna's father, and that's... Yeah. And we should probably mention, so in the show, Chris Pine, his character gets a call from Jimmy Lee, Fauna's adopted mother, and she says, keep your eye on George Hodel, because you were right about him. So it sort of reignites the flame he had for digging in. So he starts casing the Hodel family's houses, and he sees Fauna, and he wonders who Fauna is, and then he's sort of comes to the conclusion,
to find Tamar.
That she's Tamar's child, like illegitimate child. So him and Fauna finally meet up, and they have like a brief interaction.
Unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, they have So at this point, Chris Pine tries to tell Fauna he's on her side, but she didn't really want to hear it, and.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Like when you're from a place
about what's going on too.
Yeah, well, and he's like in the car, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to ride? Do you want to ride?" I would be like, "No."
Well, no, but the henchman guy who was following her.
Oh, Sep, yeah.
Yeah, like they like converged, and she had to make a choice. So yeah, I guess she went with Chris. She went with Chris Pine to avoid going with the weird guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would have too. I mean, probably not in a split second, but I'd be like, what is the less chance of me being harmed?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with this guy.
Yeah.
Because this other guy like has actually physically attacked me.
Right.
So yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. So I wanted to let you know that one of the women that was set to testify at Tamar's trial, her name was Lillian, and she said that in order to scare her into not testifying against him, George had threatened to have her son taken away and have her put into a psych ward. And and this is even worse. Wait, it gets worse. Okay. I laugh because let's just hide the pain. So he even drugged her, cut her wrists superficially to make it look like she made a suicide attempt. It was meant to discredit her as a witness.
Oh my gosh.
She never testified.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I know. He's messed up guy. He's so fascinating. Why am I so fascinated by these horrible people?
I don't know.
Today we were talking about Joseph Kennedy. You and I were talking about that.
Oh, yeah, because you had me listen to that thing about lobotomy. Or I was listening to that podcast you told me about, and it was about lobotomies. And that's a terrible story. The story of Rosemary Kennedy.
Oh, my God.
Really sad.
I mean, for those who don't know, Rosemary Kennedy was a young woman. She was like, what, in her late teens,
She was
early
like
20s?
23 when she had the lobotomy.
And she was just a little bit of a wild child, and Joseph Kennedy, who's, like the famous Kennedys, was just man with a stick up his ass, and he decided, I'm just going to give her a lobotomy, and it ended up making her, like, with the intelligence of a 3-year-old. And now, I think she's still alive. And
no, she died. She died.
She died. Okay.
I thought, actually,
Did she? I think she's alive for some reason.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
She's, like, she's got to be, like, in her, I would say, like, 70s or 80s now, though.
I wonder if he thought a lobotomy would actually help her. Like, I don't think It didn't seem... I read the Wikipedia article, that's all I read, but it seemed like he was hoping it would solve the problem, but not make her a vegetable.
Well, yeah, I think so, too. I mean,
it's still terrible. Like, I'm not
hope...
saying he's, like, what he did was good, but...
No.
I don't think
I would
he
hope, yeah.
was intentionally, like, I just gotta shut her off, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But we were like, I was like, Joseph Kennedy is worse father or George Hodel?
Oh my
And Sam just goes, George Hodel, 100%.
Yeah.
Just immediately, no hesitation. Yeah, he's a pretty awful guy. He definitely is bad. That's why you have to listen to the episode before this one, because then you will know just how terrible he is.
So in this episode also, they talk about the Black Dahlia murder.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought there was an interesting part where Chris Pine is talking to a police officer, and he asked him, like, did you investigate the Black Dahlia murder? And the police officer is pretty old. Like, he's older, so he's been on the force for a while, and he said, oh, I wouldn't be a Los Angeles cop if I didn't have my own Dahlia story, which I thought was interesting. Like,
there was, like, over, like, I want to say... like 700 cops or something working on it. Was a lot. Like,
is it because
maybe not 700, but it was. I think it was. I remember the number 97 for some reason, but there was like close to 100 or over 100 cops working on this case.
My question is, did it captivate people because her killer was never found, because of the gruesome way she was discovered, or because I don't know why, because people get murdered all the time, so why was her murder so much bigger than everybody else's?
I think it was a couple of things. It was the gruesome way she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
She was also, like, a girl who wanted to make it in Hollywood, so she was going on, like, dinner dates, where basically these guys would just pay for dinner for her, and that's how she was, like, making money. But she wasn't a call girl or anything, but... she didn't have, like, a job or anything, so I think she was a woman who was, you know, all about town and everything, and she was meeting all these dudes, and I think that because people were, like, blaming her, they were victim blaming her, and, which is the dumbest thing ever. She's the one that got murdered. Why is she, like, she's the victim, you know? Like, I don't, you know? Whatever. Anyway. I mean, let's not get into it. Brock Turner, but whatever, right?
Who's that?
He's the guy that got caught raping that girl, like, behind a dumpster, and he got, like, 6 months in prison for it.
I don't know that story.
Fuck him. I hope he dies. Brutally. Oh, just, anyway, that was terrible. But he should. He's a terrible human being.
I don't know the story.
Well... I mean, I could say you'd look it up, but it's just make you depressed.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it.
It's just terrible. Anyway, but, you know, they were like, when Brock Turner got caught, they're like, well, we're worried about what this, like, prison time is going to do for his, like, you know, his football and stuff like that, so we're just going to give him a short sentence. And it was like, what about the victim who got raped? Like... what about her life? How do you think that life is going to be affected? You know?
I don't like it when people say stuff like, she was asking for it. Nobody's ever asking for it. No one is ever asking to get raped or murdered. So never say that. Like, don't ever say, like, oh, well, she was wearing a short skirt. She was asking for it. No, like, she was wearing a short skirt, but she wasn't asking to get assaulted.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. And I think that people were saying that about Elizabeth Short was that they were like, oh, well, she was around with all these guys and she was flirting with all these men and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, she was asking for it. And it's just like, and I think people were fascinated by that because it was, it's like a chance to slut shame some girl, some young woman who was like 23.
Do you know how old she was?
She was like 23.
Really?
She was young, yeah.
Do you know who found her?
Some woman with her 3-year-old child.
Oh, she was walking and she...
yeah, she thought it was a mannequin. Yeah.
Jeez.
They always think it's a mannequin. Like,
if
anyone who finds a body.
Oh, really?
Yes. Like, when I listen to the crime podcast, they're like, so-and-so, this 15-year-old boy came across what he thought was a mannequin in a river. It turned out to be a dead body. And I'm like, man. It's never a mannequin.
So if you ever think you see a mannequin from a distance, don't get closer. Just call the cops.
Because it's a dead body.
Yeah. Actually, something weird happened the other day. the day I watched the third episode.
Wait, did you find a dead body?
No.
Oh.
Thankfully.
Because if you do, you need to text me immediately and tell me you found a dead body.
I hope I never find a dead body. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I've kind of always wanted to come across one.
That's not my dream. But anyway, so I was at work.
I mean, I wouldn't call it my dream. Okay, go on. Go on.
It's just something weird that happens. I was at work and I was dealing with a house that was built in the 1930s and it was in Los Angeles. And I...
Oh, go on.
Absolutely.
This is the story.
Oh, I absolutely thought, oh, this house was built in the 1930s and it's in Los Angeles. I wonder if the original owners were horrified about the Black Dahlia murder. And then I just went to Google Earth because I had to look at something. And I went to Google Earth and, you know, like the big aerial screenshot?
Yeah.
Well, not even, maybe like a mile away from the house, and this was labeled on the Google Earth map, was Black Dahlia murders, or the site where they found the Black Dahlia's body. Black Dahlia's body site.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? It blew my mind. Like, it kind of creeped me out because I was just absolutely wondering, and come to find out, her body was found like a mile away from
That's crazy.
that area. The house that I was looking at.
The United States is huge. Like,
and it was so weird. It was so weird.
Yeah. No, I remember you showing me that, and she sent me a screenshot of it, and I was like, "This is so cool!"
And then I watched.
So cool.
Yeah, and that was the same day I went home and I had to watch the third episode because we were going to be doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the third episode, and that one was about the Black Dahlia murder. And then at the end of the episode, they showed a crime scene photo, but it was like, it wasn't a photo of her. It was a photo, and you could see her body laying on the grass, but you couldn't see it up close. It was a photo of like police officers standing around her body.
Yeah.
And it was weird to see the lot that she was found when earlier that day I had stumbled upon it.
Yeah. Well,
So
there's
that
like a
was
house
weird.
there now.
Yeah, it's like a whole neighborhood. It's really, like, it's a packed neighborhood. And apparently people still go there.
I mean, as I said, there's murder tours in Los Angeles.
Anyway.
I'm going on all of them.
So it was weird anyway.
That's Lauren speaking.
Yeah.
Because I have a dark obsession with murder.
There are crime scene photos.
She was murdered.
There are crime scene photos in the show. So if you're... I don't know. What is it from?
I don't know.
But most of them are just photos, like, you see them in, like, files. But then at the end of each episode, they show, like, the real people pictures. And they do
Which
show...
I thought was really cool that they did
I
that.
really thought that was cool, yeah. But they do show some Black Dahlia crime scene photos, but you really don't see... They're, like, crime scene photos, not of, like, her face, like, flush on her face.
No, and
So-
her face, like... You can almost distance yourself from the rest of her body, but seeing her face is super disturbing because her eyes are open, and I mean, it's nasty. Ugh, poor girl. I feel so bad for her. She did not deserve that.
Yeah, well, most people who get murdered don't deserve it.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's terrible. So, I don't... Man, I really hope that they include more of George Hodel in the series.
I know
I am
you
so
really like
intrigued by him. Well, and I'm going on this wine tour this weekend, and all I can think of is everyone's going to be so sick of me being like, who the hell is this George Hodel you keep talking about? And I'm like talking about him to anyone who will listen. And I was even texting my friend about him too, and she's like, you can tell me all about him. And I was like, this is why we're friends.
Who is it?
Emily.
Oh.
It was just Emily, the blonde Emily, not Emily from, the other side of the state. But,
Oh.
yeah, long blonde hair.
I don't know this Emily.
Oh.
Do I know this Emily?
I think you might have met her.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, Emily.
Does she listen?
I'm not going to say her last name because I want to
Well,
keep
don't say her last name.
your privacy. Your
Yeah.
privacy. Wait, what did you ask just now?
Does she listen?
Oh, probably not. She probably doesn't even know we have a podcast.
Oh. Emily.
Emily.
Anyway, so the show, I think the mystery that the show is unraveling is pretty interesting. The show has pacing issues, and I'm intrigued to see what happens next in the story.
Me too. Yeah.
And
even though I know, but also I don't really know.
Like, it's interesting because they don't actually know if George Hodel killed Elizabeth Short, but you can't, like, his name is inevitably connected to hers.
Well, and
so that the story, like, circles back to the murder.
And his son has a lot of evidence against him. Mm-hmm. He has evidence that he killed over 50 women.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was just, like, his secretary and then Elizabeth Short.
Nope. I think that people consider him to be a serial killer.
Really?
Yeah. But he's, like... I don't... See, okay, so I know that there's, like... If you're going to look at someone like Ted Bundy, who is a serial killer, everyone always goes to Ted Bundy. It's just like the first person I thought of. Versus someone that is, he had like an MO, you know? He had a thing that he kept doing over and over again, and that was his shtick. His shtick, yeah. It doesn't seem like George Hodel necessarily has an MO. So I don't know if that's a thing where you can consider someone a serial killer if they don't have that qualification. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but what is it then if you kill a lot of women? Like, if you kill a lot of people, even though you don't do it the same every time, why is it that serial killer?
I guess I always just like...
Doing it the same is what classified as serial killer, and the rest is just like a murderer?
I guess just in my mind, and John Douglas, if you're out there, please correct me. He's the one that coined the term serial killer.
Oh. Mm-hmm. John Douglas.
In the 70s. Yeah, he was a cop. There's the show Mindhunter is about him.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty good show if you ever want to watch it. I like Jonathan Groff a lot. He's a very talented guy. But, so... I guess in my mind, a serial killer is like
a box of chocolates.
No, like I just imagine them like someone going out every night or whatever and like breaking into people's homes and killing them or whatever. I see like I just can't visualize George Hodel is like with the term serial killer because it seems like the way he kills people or which I think Sepp was actually referring to his secret work. That's my theory. He was like, "Sir, let me help with your secret work."
Yeah, it kind of seemed like it because he had that like cello woman. Yeah, like that mannequin that he was turning into a cello,
which was super weird.
Really.
Well, then I think that was another connection with surrealism is that it's a subjugation of woman. Mm-hmm. But I can't like see. I can't connect those two together, serial killer and George Hodel, just because, to me, it's like, he doesn't have the same MO, he's not doing the same thing, and with Elizabeth Short, it was such an extreme level of depravity and gruesomeness that it's like, I guess, also he's so highly intelligent, too, that it, like, takes me out of it, because a lot of serial killers are not highly intelligent. They actually have low intelligence. And there's obviously, like, exceptions. I think Edmund Kemper was considered a genius level. He was a co-ed killer. He's also actually in Mindhunter, and the guy that they cast as Edmund Kemper is just so perfect, because he's, like, because Edmund Kemper would, like, get women in his car by... convincing them to get in his car. So he was like charming. So he was like a likable person, right? He was huge. He was like 6'10" or something, like ginormous dude. But the guy that they cast as him in Mindhunter gave this vibe where you're like, I want to like this guy, but I know what he's done, so I'm incredibly uncomfortable and unnerved around him. But you like him at the same time.
Interesting.
It was very weird. But anyway, so that's my thing, is that I guess I just don't consider him a serial killer because in my mind it's just like it's just a different thing, you know?
I guess I know what you mean.
I guess just a serial murderer maybe is different somehow. I don't know. I know there's probably levels of, there's levels of someone who does kill. I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's worth looking into, which is what I'll probably do because it's me. It's me.
Yeah.
Because I re-listened to the entire Root of Evil podcast for this episode.
Oh, really?
I did. Yeah.
You do your homework. Laura does the homework. I just watch the show.
I do a lot of homework. But you know what? It's homework I assign myself, and I love doing it. So it's not really homework.
Yeah. Did Elizabeth Short have, was she in contact with her parents?
Who? Elizabeth Short?
Yeah.
Yes, I think her mom, I don't think she got along with her dad. I think she tried to live. What?
Nothing.
Okay. You freaked me out after you sent me that text about someone breaking into the apartments in my apartment complex.
That was freaky because, but you know what? I'm not going to go any further because this goes out to a live audience, but after we're done recording, I'll tell you.
Okay, yeah.
But, no, that was freaky, so.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Like, when you looked over, I was like, what?
Oh, no, I
just freaked out. Like, we're talking about serial killers, and I'm like,
that's what the third episode did to me. Like, it made me feel eerie. Like, it made me feel weird, so I just had to do something. I had to watch something that made me forget about the eeriness.
That's what I do.
That's what the movie Annihilation did as well. Like,
oh, did it?
I feel so weird. I hated it. And
man,
so, yeah.
Where did I go wrong with telling you movies that you would like?
I don't know.
I feel like I failed you as a friend. Like, at first I tell you you're gonna like Annihilation, and then you didn't like it. And then I tell you you're gonna like Phantom of the Opera, and you didn't like it.
I'd rather watch Phantom of the Opera than Annihilation.
I liked Annihilation, but we don't need to get into it. It's fine.
So yeah, so far it's building an interesting mystery, and I'm wondering how it's gonna resolve.
Me too.
So that'll be interesting. And Chris Pine gives a very good performance so far. I think he's, if nothing else, if you have a slight interest in watching the show, if the story interests you, and you're on the fence, then I think Chris Pine could convince you to maybe give it a shot.
Would you recommend it so far?
I think if I had just watched the first episode just thinking, what is this, I wouldn't have continued watching it. Like, if I didn't know anything, just because it's slow. Like, some parts are very slow. But the story, the mystery is interesting. So I'm not saying it's terrible. If I just went in blind, I don't know if I would continue. But Chris Pine does give a really good performance.
Yeah, I like, especially, too, that other than Chris Pine, the cast is virtually unknown. Yeah. I mean, I know who India Isley is, but I'm also I just know a lot of celebrities' names, so that's
Is his detective friend someone famous? Because he looks familiar to me. The friend.
Oh, he might be. Yeah, he looked familiar to me too.
I mean, he's obviously famous, I guess, but he looks like somebody I know. No, his boss. I know who his boss is. I mean, the friend who he served in Korea with.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I ever recognized. Yeah. He didn't.
Yeah, but
he kind of looks like oh my God, who's that redheaded actor? The only thing I could think of him in is Harry Potter, and this doesn't help the situation.
Because I don't know Harry Potter.
He was in About Time. He was in Peter Rabbit. He was in
Peter Rabbit, the movie with cartoon rabbits. Was he a voice? Please tell me it was a voice.
He was not. He was well, I think he had dark hair in that. He was in Dredd.
Oh, Domhnall Gleeson?
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yeah. I was like, he's in Star Wars. The guy that his friend kind of reminds me of him a little bit. I think they kind of look like. Not a lot.
They do.
Yeah,
I can see it.
But there's definitely similarity there.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be because they're both redheaded white dudes, but I mean,
they are both redheaded white dudes.
So who knows? But yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, give it a shot if you think the story sounds interesting.
Yeah. I am excited to see what the rest of the show is going to be like.
Yeah, I want to see how it resolves. Yeah, for sure.
The thing that sold me personally that made me want to watch it was when I was on Tumblr. because I still tumble at 32 years old. And
I wish I could still tumble at 34 years old. I used to be I could do the cartwheels and round-offs still.
I can't. I'm too chunky.
Anyway,
But,
sometimes when I do them, I, like, feel a pull on certain muscles, and I'm like, oh, like, one cartwheel away from being
as long as you're not walking
like
down
week.
your stairs backwards,
Yeah.
you're good. Or not backwards.
I don't know what that.
Upside down. You know,
Oh,
like
yeah, like on a handstand?
No, like in The Exorcist.
Oh, gross. No. Yeah.
I didn't like that movie. I
never saw
it.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think if I didn't know the story... Oh, right, I was saying something. The thing that sold me was when I saw a gift set of Chris Pine, and he's in the gallery, and he's looking at all of the photos that George Hodel, or the paintings that George Hodel has, and he's, like, connecting them to the Black Dahlia murder in his mind, and I was like, I have to watch this now.
Ah, okay. That must be a later episode then.
I think it's one of the...
Nice.
Yeah. But... Yeah, because when he's running through the gallery, he's just trying to find Fauna initially. Mm-hmm. So, I'm intrigued, though, to see where George and Fauna's relationship is going to end up.
Yes.
I mean, I'm also kind of nervous, but... Because I know what he did.
Wait, does he do something to Fauna?
No, I mean to Tamar.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what he does to Fauna.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the dark just as much as you are when it comes to... Yeah. The only thing I know is what I've told you.
All right.
So... other than what I heard on the Root of Evil podcast, which I already told you, so
yeah,
and that kind of helped me wanting to watch it too because I got super into that. That was a hard listen though. That was a rough listen.
Yeah,
there's some parts where I was like, oh boy, but it's good. Again, I'd recommend it. The Root of Evil podcast is awesome. So, if they could give us a shout out, that would be awesome. If they just did an ad for us or something, they're like, watch this, or they're like, listen to this new podcast, The Watchers of Movies. They talk about I Am the Night in 2 episodes. I'd be like, yes! I would be flipping out. I would lose my shit. It'd be amazing. I had sugar earlier today. It's running through my system. Like, girl, you had some sprinkles with a little bit of ice cream.
Sprinkles with a little bit of ice cream.
I will have sprinkles with a topping of ice cream.
I guess is there anything else you wanted to...
I don't know. I'm excited to see how, like, Tamar is, the way they portray the character, or the person. And, I did write, too, because I was really curious as to their poem that was recited by George Hodel in the 3rd episode. It's the first stanza of A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I need to Google it. But, yeah, so, because it was very, like, the way that he was reciting it as all these things were happening was very... I don't really know what the word, very, like, unsettling, you know? Yeah.
It's a creepy part.
So, it's, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That scene's very creepy. If you like creepy, you're gonna like the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
So.
Oh, and then Nero gets murdered.
Oh, yeah, and his tongue... tied up,
tied in a knot.
That's like
they don't show that.
They don't show it. Yeah, they don't show that. They just say it. But he wasn't a big enough character for them to even really touch on that for more than a couple seconds. Cause also, that guy was such a freaking creeper. Like, when he was saying all that shit to her, and he's like, I don't like a girl that plays games. I was just like, I got super bad vibes about this dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
His character was... I hope there's more about him, because I'm not sure why he got killed in the first place.
I mean, I think that he got killed... I think he was killed by Sepp, because that's when he was making the call to Fauna, and Sepp was there. He was watching him.
And he was recording it and all that.
Yeah. But what... I mean, I'm almost wondering if he wasn't killed by Sepp, but he was maybe killed by George Hodel, but I don't think... I feel like George Hodel wouldn't mess with I feel like he wouldn't care about killing a guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like he would care about killing a woman, but he wouldn't care about killing a dude.
Right.
You know? Yeah, because it's like his thing. He likes
women.
Like,
there's one thing Ron Burgundy knows. It's women.
There's one thing that George Hodel knows. It's murdering women. We don't have proof of that, but it's okay. He died 20 years ago, and his son wrote like 3 books about how he's a murderer.
Oh, wow.
He also thinks he's the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That was a good movie, too. Zodiac?
Yeah, that was an awesome movie.
It was creepy. Very creepy.
Yeah.
And it had some really kind of startling scenes, murder scenes, I thought.
Oh, dude, yeah. That one scene where Jake Gyllenhaal's in the basement and he can hear someone
creepy.
like walking. Oh my god.
Gosh.
That was creepier than the murder scene.
That's a David Fincher movie, right? Is 7 David Fincher as well? Yeah, there's similarities.
7, Fight Club, he did the girl with the dragon tattoo, the English one. He did, what else did he do? He might have done All the Money in the World, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see similarities between Zodiac and 7, just in terms of like the dark creepiness.
Yeah.
But I liked Zodiac.
I did too.
I forgot about. So they think George Hodel was the Zodiac Killer as well?
That is, his son does, yeah.
What was his MO? I can't remember. I saw the movie, but it's been so long, I can't remember.
His MO. Actually, do you want to take a break just really quick? You want to pause that really quick?
We're going to pause it.
It's going to take a break.
It's going to be a break for us, but for you, it's going to keep going.
It'll be a second.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, we're back.
It was like 10 hours. Not really.
10 hours,
yeah. Like 6 minutes. Not even 6 minutes. Like
we took a nap. We went out. We ate some pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Had some pizza.
Yeah. We saw a movie.
We saw a movie. We went. Yeah. Took a road trip to Philadelphia.
Yeah. We stopped by New Orleans on the way.
Yeah.
Which is not on the way at all.
Philadelphia by way of New Orleans. So now we're back.
Yeah. No, we really just sat on the couch and talked for a second. But, so the Zodiac Killer, and that's actually what we were talking about. We were talking about, do we want to do an episode on the Zodiac? But then we both decided not to, because it is a really creepy movie, and even though I like creepy stuff, I have a hard time watching that movie alone.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah. It's creepy, but so his MO was that he would dress up in he had like a mask on, like a black mask, and like a black, not a sweater, but it had a circle with a cross in it on the chest. That was like how he looked. And it would be these couples that would be like together alone, usually in a secluded area, like in a park or like a lover's lane or whatever. And he would it wasn't the same every time, I don't think. One couple, he shot them and the guy survived, but the girl died. Another one, he stabbed them. He like tied them up and stabbed them. And then this is just what I'm remembering from the movie.
Yeah.
Because I did rewatch part of it recently, but then I stopped because I was like, it's like 10 o'clock at night. I don't really want to have violent nightmares like I do every night. Just kidding, I don't. But only when I'm watching Vikings, which I love. It's one of my favorite shows.
Bring it back to Vikings every time.
Every time. No, but it was always a couple.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes the guy died, and I think usually the girl, or sometimes the guy survived, but usually I think the girl died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
But it was just very like.
How did he tie it to George Hodel?
I think it was the writing. His writing was very similar to George Hodel's.
Oh.
And I saw in that documentary that I was watching, I was looking at his writing, and it did look very similar to the Zodiac's writing. Like, it was very...
Would he leave, like, notes or something? I can't remember. It's been
the
so
Zodiac
long since I've seen the movie.
Send in notes to the newspaper.
Okay, that's right.
And they were, like, coded.
Now.
There was a code to it. There was a cipher.
Yeah.
And I think a woman broke it. She was, like, a teacher. I think she was the one that figured out the cipher. So, and I don't remember her name, of course, but I just think it's cool, you know. Some, like, random lady, like, who's a teacher, yeah. So, but they never caught him, but they did have a suspect, who I cannot remember his name. It wasn't George Hodel. It was, like, some random dude. and he like had a heart attack or something, and then the killing stopped. So they think it was that guy.
I see.
So yeah, there's like, but you know what I mean. I mean, obviously Steve Hodel, it's his father, so he has all that paperwork and all that stuff and all of those memoirs and everything that George Hodel has. He has access to all that we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally possible that he could be the Zodiac Killer. They never caught him. I mean, he lived in Los Angeles. San Francisco, I think, is a couple hours away. It's not that far. It's totally possible to go on a day trip to murder some people and then come back in the same day. You know, like, it's just, it's like, who knows? I don't know, you know?
Creepy stuff.
There's some other killers that, I think it was the Jigsaw Killer that he thought he was, and the Lipstick Killer. I don't know them. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of them before. But I think I might read the Black Dahlia Avenger. I read the sample of it, and I pretty much read it in like one sitting, and I was just like, maybe I should just buy the book. I should just read it. I might buy the physical copy so I can actually make notes in it.
Yeah, that's your thing.
That
I love it.
thing.
So anyway,
yeah.
So this has been.
I think we're done.
Yeah. I hope people have been interested. If you're still listening at this point, good for you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking with us, and it will be a follow-up episode about
the last three
episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you had a happy 4th of July, because by the time you're hearing this, maybe 4th of July is done.
It'll be Sunday. I should be uploading it. Yeah. So. I'm trying to get on a regular schedule of uploading things on Sundays. So Sunday is the day. That seems to be my chill day.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.